Wow, Reverend, that was really good. It's hard for this poor old senator to have to follow that, is all I can say. Well, ahead of the first fight with Sonny Liston, Muhammad Ali stood before a crowded pack of reporters and told the world unapologetically who he was. I'm the greatest. That's what he said. With this simple proclamation, Ali took the pen of history and wrote his own title in the textbooks. He was not Muhammad Ali, the prize fighter, or even Muhammad the world champion. He was Muhammad the greatest. Ali's doubters dismissed this declaration as mere braggadocio. But Ali wasn't talking trash. He was speaking truth. And he was, in the world of boxing, he truly was the greatest. With the cutthroat quickness of a street fighter and the simple grace of a ballerina, Ali moved with Achilles-like agility and punched with Herculean strength. But to assume that Ali's greatness stems solely from his athletic prowess is to see only half the man. Ali was great, not only as an extraordinary fighter. He was a committed civil rights leader, an international diplomat, a forceful advocate of religious freedom, an effective emissary of Islam. He was something. He was caring as a father, a husband, a brother, and a friend. Indeed, it is as a personal friend that I witnessed Ali's greatness for myself. I first met Muhammad Ali 28 years ago, almost to the day, to this day. I was in my Senate office, and an assistant called in and said, "You have a visitor outside." And I was really surprised that it was none other than the champion himself. The friendship we developed, I think, was puzzling to many people, especially to those who saw only our differences. I might say that, but where others saw difference, Ali and I saw kinship. We were both dedicated to our families and deeply devoted to our faiths. He took Islam, and I to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We were both products of humble backgrounds and hardscrabble youth. Ali grew up poor here in Louisville, and I grew up poor in Pittsburgh. True, we were different in some ways, but our differences fortified our friendship. They did not define it. I saw greatness in Ali's ability to look beyond the horizon and our differences, to find common ground. This shared sensibility was the foundation of a rich and meaningful relationship that I will forever treasure. One of my fondest memories of our friendship was when Ali joined me in the Salt Lake, to go and listen to the Salt Lake Mormon Tabernacle Choir. I have to say, it was the famed Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And Ali, loved music, and he enjoyed the choir's performance. But he seemed most excited to share his own religious beliefs with those who came to hear the Christian hymns. Ali attracted big crowds that day, as he always did, and eagerly gave everyone autographed pamphlets explaining his Muslim beliefs. Hundreds of Mormons lined up to grab Ali's pamphlets, and of course, I took one for myself. I respected his deeply held convictions just as he respected mine. In our relationship, it was anchored by our different faiths. Ali was open to goodness in all of its diverse realities and varieties. On another occasion, I took Ali to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City. We visited with downtrodden children who perhaps had never smiled a day in their lifetime until Ollie showed up. Ollie held those kids and looked into their eyes. They would grin from ear to ear. These are kids that never smiled. They were so pained. The nurses were astounded. Never before had they seen someone who had connected so immediately and profoundly with these sick children. Ollie had a special way with kids, as we all know. He may have been a tough and tenacious man in the ring, but he was compassionate and tender around those that he loved. For all of his ferocity as a fighter, Ollie was also a peacemaker. A particular radio host in Utah berated me constantly on the airwaves, week after week. And one day the host asked if I would arrange for Ollie to meet Utah's former middleweight champion, Gene Fulmer, for a joint interview. Ollie agreed, knowing the appearance could help me build some goodwill, but he also was very interested in meeting Gene as well. It was an unforgettable experience. Here were two champions, face to face, reminiscing about some of the best fights the world has ever seen. And I have to say, and in the process, Ollie claimed that radio host, well, he charmed the radio host so much on my behalf, gently transforming an unrepentant antagonist into a respectful sparring partner. So dedicated was Ollie to our friendship that he joined me on the campaign trail during several election cycles. He came to Utah year after year to raise funds for a charity benefiting needy women, women in jeopardy, and families in our state. Ollie didn't look at life through the binary lens of Republican, Democrat, so common today. He saw worthy causes and shared humanity. In Ollie's willingness to put principles ahead of partisanship, he showed us all the path to greatness. And I'll never forget that greatness, nor will I ever forget him. There were many faces to Ollie's greatness. His abilities as a boxer, his charisma as a public figure, his benevolence as a father and as a friend. All of these made Ollie great. But there was something else that made him the greatest. Ollie was the greatest because, as a debilitated yet unbroken champion in his later years, he pointed us to a greatness beyond ourselves, a greatness beyond even Ollie. He pointed us to the greatness of God. God raised up Ollie to be the greatest fighter in the world of all time. Yet he allowed Ollie to wrestle with Parkinson's disease, an inescapable reminder that we are all mortal and that we are all dependent on God's grace. Ollie believed this himself. He once told me, God gave me this condition to remind me always that I am human and that only He is the greatest. Ollie was an unsurpassed symbol of our universal dependence on the divine. He was the greatest because he reminded us all who truly is the greatest, God, our Creator. I'm eternally grateful for my special bond with this special man and for my friendship with his beloved wife, Lonnie, who I love dearly. She's one of the great women in this world. She was dedicated to her companion to the very end, and boy, I know it. I pray that all may rest peacefully, and that Ollie will rest peacefully in the presence of the greatest of all. even our God. I can bear testimony that I believe in God. I believe that we're here on earth for a reason. I believe that this earth life is a time for us to do what's right for God and for our fellow men and women. And I don't know that I've ever met anybody who did it any better than my friend, Muhammad Ali. God bless you. God bless the family.